All right, on this episode of Bouts Talking Bouts, want to shout out some of the sponsors real quick. Sovereign Extracts, if you're looking for some CBD cartridges, THC, some hybrid options, also a variety of CBD oils. So check out Sovereign Extracts, but also USG Canada, some great apparel and gear for boxers, mixed martial artists, and for fans alike. And on this episode, welcoming an individual who has a big bout going on UFC Fight Pass that takes place Sunday, May 31st. Submission Underground, Portland, Oregon. We've got Tobias Baker taking on Charles Gilpin, and I've got Tobias on the show right now. How's your day going so far there, man?
Oh man, it's going great. Tuesday, we're about 5 days out now, and I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, for sure, man. And like you seem quite, steeped in the whole Portland area and everything like that, being part of American Top Team Portland as per a number of your bios there. So, I mean, what's it like? Is there like a level of familiarity you get from competing in a space that is, familiar like that? Does that inform the performance or not so much?
Well, I've only been up here for about going on 2.5 months now. But it was familiar from day one. They welcomed me with open arms, and luckily I had a former training partner of mine that had already moved up here and already got integrated, and it was an easy change, very very smooth transition, and I think training with the highest level of competitors on the West Coast was the way to go.
Yeah, and just the grappling acumen of all the guys out there that train at that gym, I imagine that gives you a lot of confidence heading into a submission grappling event here.
Yeah, absolutely. When you get rounds with killers like Brandon Austin and Eric McConico and with the supervision of Fabiano Scherner, you feel pretty good. You feel pretty good.
Yeah, and a relatively quick turnaround since the last go around there. But I mean, it's great seeing like the submission grappling going on during this time. But also, there's some people who obviously maybe raise some sort of issue with the whole thing, like, oh, grappling during a pandemic. Why is this going on? Have you been getting any kind of response like that from people? Are people kind of like interacting with you in a way where they think it's a cool thing? Like, how would you characterize the sentiment in a public reception kind of way? But also, how do you feel, grappling during a pandemic and everything?
Man, I feel great. Because I think that athletes have the superior immune system. There was a couple of stories about some of the NBA players that had contracted COVID, and they didn't even know they had it. So the way that I feel about it is very simple. If people want to freak out about it and get mad at me, then don't follow my page. That's how I feel about it. So luckily, all of the comments and the love that I've been getting from some of the fans and some of the people closest to me, they're nothing but happy for me and very excited to see me get this opportunity.
Yeah, and a great opportunity it is for sure, but it kind of being in like a secretive type of location, like no fans being there, just a lot of very unique competitive considerations for this one. How do you think that's going to inform your performance, if at all?
It's actually, I think it's going to make it easier. I think it's going to be easier for me to focus. I think it's going to be easier for me to assess the situation and the moves. The only downside is not having your corner there. And one of the things I don't even have to worry about is that, Fabiano's got his own thing going on this weekend with one of our bantamweights fighting on one of the UFC cards. So I think it's just the way that it plays out, and I feel really excited. I like competing like this. It kind of reminds me of back in the day wrestling. You'd make it to the finals of some tournaments, and they'd lower the light over the mat, and the only thing that people are focused on is that finals match, and it's nice and quiet.
Yeah, and you mentioned like UFC and stuff like that, and to the point of your MMA endeavors and stuff like that. It looks like you had a very productive 2019, and obviously with this year, there's certain hurdles getting in the way of some MMA competition. Like ideally, like what are your goals for MMA in the future? Like, are you kind of looking to like keep fresh on the submission underground circuit and then maybe wait until there's a clearer, more defined path for MMA? Like, where are you at on your endeavors in that sport?
gym change and everything, we've been taking it nice and slow. Originally, before all of the quarantine broke out, I was planning on fighting in May. You know, I was hoping to fight around this time. So, luckily for me, I'm just trying to keep on my keep myself active, not get complacent. I want to keep training every day. But as far as the future goes, you know, I leave that up to Matt Dodge and Joey over at Dodge Sports to help me find the best opportunities. And then at the end of the day, you know, I'm gonna talk it over with my coach Fabiano, and you know, hopefully, you know, we're gonna start making that trek for the UFC, because that's the ultimate goal for me, is to be able to fight in the UFC by 2021, hopefully, or you know, maybe 2022, just depending on how it goes. You know, you never know in MMA. You can get called up. You can, you know, a lot of things can happen. I mean, I personally like to. I wanted to get on the regional circuit and maybe fight for the LFA and some bigger promotions. But as of right now, you know, I think my main goal is just growing as a martial artist every day, and you know, the more time that these guys give me is going to be pretty bad for them. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to phrase it. I mean, the skill set you have already, I can only imagine what it's going to be like once you keep working on it. But you mentioned Dodge Sports in there, and, you know, getting kind of close to 1 year with the management there. I mean, I noticed they started repping you last summer there. So how did that all initially come about? And just, you know, like I said, getting close to that 1 year mark, like, how would you characterize the run up until this point with Dodge Sports? Like, what benefits have you gotten from that partnership there?
I think it's been amazing. Not only have I grown as a fighter, but also as a man. I was able to go down to Miami and meet Matt and his beautiful fiance, and really get to know them and see what kind of people they are, and see what they represent, because they represent this new breed of fighters. They represent fighters that are going in there not only to put on a show, but show that their willingness to dedicate to the game and be a good person and set a good example, you know, for young fighters in the game and for the fans, showing that, you know, we've got integrity and character, and you know, and I think that's one of the things that I learned from Matt, because it's not very often you meet too many managers without an ego, and Matt is one of those guys, man. He's not ego driven. He's all about his fighters, and that's what really drew me to the company, because I signed with Matt pretty quick after we had our first conversation, because Joey evidently had brought me up to Matt, and then once Matt saw, you know, well, what kind of tear I was on and how fast I was coming up in the game, we knew we wanted to work together. And, you know, in this past almost year, I've changed camps, and everything has gone up. You know, even after the loss, I still felt like, you know, I could conquer the world. You know, I could still achieve my dream. That idea never faded from my mindset. Matt was with me all the way. So I'm really looking forward to what's next, and you know, hopefully re-signing with them in the future, and a long partnership.
Yeah, well, I love hearing like how beneficial that is, and seems to be mutually beneficial on both sides there. But I kind of wanted to talk about your opponent for this Submission Underground event here. I'm noticing that they got a Kimura victory over Jake Smith on the last Submission Underground there, and just seems like they have a level of amateur MMA experience as well. So have you gotten to check out much tape on your opponent? Are you generally someone that just kind of focuses on your own efforts and then kind of gets out there and you express yourself on fight night? Like, where are you at on that end of things?
Funny enough, we were actually supposed to fight on the same amateur card, and I think his fight fell through or something, so I didn't get to see him fight live. I've seen some of his tape. He's a really gritty guy, and I've got a lot of respect for him. So I'm excited to go up against him and put my skills on display. You know, he's already got accolades in the jiu-jitsu world. You know, he's a purple belt with Brazilian top team. You know, no-gi bronze placer at Worlds. So, you know, ready to put it on the line, and I'm definitely not overlooking them at all. And I'm ready to go in there and show that through all my experiences that I've been prepared for this.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm seeing kind of like the early goings of once you even got interested in the sport. And I think it's a cool backstory just with like, your mom being deaf and then you met Matt Hamill at a function kind of related to that and just seemed like a really inspirational kind of thing. So can you kind of talk about that moment? Like were the wheels turning like right away to get involved in MMA?
I mean, I fell in love with MMA the first moment that I laid eyes on it. When I saw it, it definitely sparked something deep in me that I didn't even know was there yet. And I think it was something that kind of ran in the blood, runs in the family, and is genetically intertwined with my DNA. But the love for the sport just keeps growing and growing the more that I do it. And I know that wrestling was probably the main factor that really brought MMA to life for me. It came from a dream to a reality after I had the correct tools. And I think that I laid good groundwork for my MMA career.
Absolutely. And then I also saw an interview where you were talking about the reason for your Heathen nickname there. And you were saying it's not really a nickname, it's more your personality and that you respect few and fear none. Like, I'm kind of wondering, is that like a necessary thing for you in competition? Like having some level of like, I guess, a chip on your shoulder? Or would you even characterize it as like that kind of a framework?
I characterize it as I welcome battle with anybody, or as joking around with my friends. I want smoke with everybody.
Yeah.
Because I think a warrior's mindset kind of falls underneath that like anime category. If you look at a guy like Goku from the Dragon Ball Z series, he never wanted to destroy the world and he never wanted to be evil, but he always wanted to fight the strongest guys. And for some reason that's just ingrained in me, and I want to fight the biggest, baddest, strongest guys to test my skills, to hone my skills as a martial artist. And in doing so, you just grow so much as a person. You can ask anybody after a fight how they're feeling, and they're just going to say blessed and thankful. And even if that guy lost, as long as it was a war, it was a battle, those things are worth it. And living the life that I live, like I just want to live simply. And and I think that nickname, the Heathen, really comes from my heathen brethren, my ancestors, and how they just wanted to fight and pillage so that they could one day have farming on peaceful lands, and grow their culture. So, I just want to be able to battle and then one day retire peacefully, happy and knowing that I fought many great battles.
That's an awesome way to articulate it. I definitely get where you're coming from, and as a Dragon Ball Z fan, I appreciate the Goku reference there, but I'm kind of curious about the methodology ahead of this one. Like, I imagine it's a fair bit different just with the landscape of not as many gyms being open and certain people like trying to outsource training, even training at like certain home gyms and stuff like that. Has your methodology changed a great deal? And if so, how are you preparing for this next bout here?
Well, I haven't been able to be vocal about sorry about that.
No worries.
I haven't been able to be very vocal about like where I'm training or who I'm training with or what we're doing. But I just want people to know that I have been training and that I have been preparing. And the only thing that's changed is that, I can't throw punches in this fight. That's the only change. That's the only thing that changed about this training camp for this. And, I feel more prepared than I've ever felt before. I even feel prepared for a fight right now. I'm ready to get right into a fight camp. So, for me, the only thing that's changed is the location and the opponent.
Yeah, so you still have like a regular kind of stream of training going on. Like it hasn't been disrupted in any kind of way, or you haven't had to like pivot or alter anything?
Well, I mean, the only altercations that I've really had to make to it is virtual training with my strength coach. Before we were going to the facility over at Roke PT, and we were able to get that one-on-one work. And luckily, we've kept up with it, and we stayed on virtual training. Luckily, I've had access to a friend's weight room, and I've been able to still prepare my body the way that I wanted to, with no specific detours. I've been able to stay on the path and keep strength training, keep my body ready, and luckily get some secret jiu-jitsu rules.
Yeah, for sure, man. And also the recuperative measures, I imagine, are a big part of it for you. And from what I can tell, it seems like you're an advocate for CBD and medical marijuana and stuff like that. So is that like a key part in your recuperation processes there?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the main things that I really like to do is get salve, and usually with aches and pains, and especially with like sparring, and you start bruising up your shins, and you look for things that help just alleviate that pain for a little while until you do it again the next day, and you just keep getting stronger and stronger. And I think one of the nice things is that CBD and medical marijuana, those things help free your mind from overthinking and thinking about those injuries. And I think the properties of those things are super important. Just because I use them every day in my routine. I usually will smoke after a practice and be super sore and hurting, or I might even smoke in the morning before practice if I wake up just feeling like I got hit by a truck. A lot of fighters know what I'm talking about, when you wake up and you were feeling good when you went to sleep, but then you woke up and felt like you got ran over by a Mack truck. Those kind of things help jumpstart your day and work through the aches and pains of training.
Yeah, and I mean, I saw a story a little while ago about how Elias Theodore got a medical marijuana therapeutic use exemption going on there. So hopefully there can be some more widespread sort of thing whereby those kind of exemptions are the standard, as opposed to it more so being kind of an anomaly. Because like you said, I mean, medical marijuana and CBD, very commonplace in the MMA sphere and just martial arts in general.
Well, yeah. And for me personally, I think it atones to mental health. I think a lot of fighters and a lot of athletes, it's not just fighters, it's athletes in general, benefit from it because it helps with their mental toughness and their mental game. And I think that's a huge thing that not a lot of people are talking about.
That's a key point too, man. I mean, that's absolutely true. As a medical marijuana user myself, I can advocate for that too. But I thought this was inspirational. I was kind of scrolling through your Instagram, and you were doing like a bit of a comparison, kind of talking about how you at one point were 245 pounds and just kind of caught up in the oil and gas industry, weren't eating, the best food to say the least, but just a huge lifestyle change from just over a few years ago. So can you talk about martial arts just as like something that's like benefited your life overall, just even beyond like the competitive scope of getting out there and doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing that I really appreciated is that we all appreciate a grind. Everybody wants to be on their grind, and they want to feel like they're accomplishing something. They want that acknowledgement at the end of the day, like, man, today I did something. And every day that you leave the gym, you always want that feeling. And I think it was one of those feelings that I missed from wrestling, and maybe after a day of like hard yard work, you get that same feeling of accomplishment. And it's really grown my mental, because as a young adult, there's a lot of things that you care about and don't care about, girls and going out to parties and having a fun time and this and that. But at the end of the day, you're still searching for that fulfillment. And as a martial artist, it has given me so much more inner peace, knowing that I've been honing my craft and using it to not only better my body, but my mind and my soul, and finding out like what kind of man I am every day. Because everybody wants to talk about winning rounds and getting all these subs in practice and landing these punches, but nobody wants to talk about when that guy in that gi is crushing you and suffocating you with a sweaty gi, and you can't breathe, and you don't know what you're going to do, and you start to freak out because you've tried everything. Those are those moments that you live for, because you get to find out who you are in those moments. Kind of like when you get to find out who you are in the cage when you get punched in the mouth, those kind of things grow you as a man and as a competitor, and your soul is fulfilled on a different level when you're put in those scenarios.
So you're saying it's better to be a wolf of Odin than a lamb of God, in a way?
Absolutely. I think it's really important to search for that battle, and even if you don't win, you know that you tried, you know that you gave it all, and you know that you went in there and did the best that you could do, and that was all that you had, no matter win or lose. It's better to go out on your shield than on your knees.
That's a great way to phrase it, man, for sure. But you've been great with your time, and I want to be mindful of that for sure. Is there anything you'd like to add as a parting thought as we're wrapping up here?
Yeah, absolutely. Watch us on UFC Fight Pass this weekend, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard, and you're going to get a show, that's for sure. And I want a big shout-out to Dodge Sports and my manager and Joey for helping me get all these interviews, and I'm just very thankful that I'm able to kind of get the word out about me a little bit more, as we keep traveling down this road.
Yeah, well, it was great getting to be able to talk to you, and I appreciate you giving me some of the time, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to be allocating their time to this Submission Underground event. It goes Sunday, May 31st, Tobias Baker versus Charles Gilpin, among one of the many great matches set to go on that card. But thanks again for all the time and insights there, Tobias, and yeah, best of luck with the remaining part of your preparations, and good luck for this coming Sunday here.
Absolutely. You have a great one, man. Thank you for your time.